Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to day 4 of the Primo Hackathon. We have today is our round of lightning talks. I'm joined by Miri Botzer, who is one of the product leads for the new UI. She's been acting as a customer liaison for we've been meeting very regularly, at least for a year, over the customization framework as well as the various functionality within the new UI. She's been a tremendous partner in kind of getting the user community and Ex Libris aligned on putting together the new UI. Yuval Kizilstein is also here. He's a product manager for Primo. So if anything goes wrong, you can blame him. No, in all seriousness, he is by far and away a huge partner in this whole endeavor, and I want to thank him for his support publicly. David Gong is one of the lead UX developers. He's joining us to answer some of the lightning questions that you guys have posted in the Slack channel. As well as Noam is here as well, and Mehmet Selik from the Interop Special Interest Working Group will be moderating some of the questions for the lightning round as well, and hopefully he'll be giving us a demo of his new Chrome extension, Primo Explorer. I think that's everybody. I'll give it over to Miri to kind of give you a sense of what's coming down the road in Primo over the next 6 months, and we can talk a little bit about the enhancements that are on their way. So I'm going to turn it over to Miri.
So thank you, and thank you, Ellen, for the warm words. It's actually a pleasure to work with this group, and I think that this hackathon is amazing example for the community we are working with. It's really unbelievable. You know, if you are going in Ex Libris office today, you hear everyone talking about it and how amazing it is actually, this hackathon. So I just want a few minutes to talk about not the general roadmap for Primo, but really the gap that we still have for features with the new UI, to explain you what is coming next, what is coming actually with the coming release, because I think some of it you already saw even in Noam and Asaf presentations for those who saw it, and really what is the next features to come. Obviously there is full roadmap that we will present, I hope by end of this month or by beginning of January, which will include not only the new UI feature parity, but also new features that are coming in 2017. But this will be in different time presented. So in February release, I think you'll see 2 really big differences with the new UI. First is the performance improvement. This is obviously an ongoing task, but I think in February a lot of effort was put into the performance, and I must say that I think there is huge improvement in the performance for the new UI. The second big thing that you'll see is really the pagination, which we took all your concerns and really working both from usability and accessibility point of view, and we built a new approach for the pagination. Instead of having the infinite scrolling, we have the load more result functionality, but also option to different pages on the screen to go like the pagination that we are all familiar with the classic UI. So this is I think something that Asaf presented in his presentation 2 days ago. We are also adding in February the citation trail. again, it's I think big improvement in what we're presenting with the classic interface, because we now have the full trail, the full path of the citation, and you can navigate within it. And we are adding MetaLib support with the new UI. Then in May release, as for May and for August, we saw that unfortunately we won't be able to finalize all the features with May. So with the great help and from the working group, we actually asked to help us to prioritize really the features and to verify which one are more important to have in May release, and which obviously it's not better, but it's okay to postpone for August. So we have the search history, which is actually the session history, sessions history, sorry. We'll have the browse functionality, which we are now working and thinking of the new approach. I hope that soon we'll have some demos to share. We have the journal A to Z that actually we already have demo. So anyone that is interested, I'll be happy to share and show you where we are today with the design. Citation linker, the cited by services, and the tags. The tags is actually, it's coming back to the multi-tenant environment and to everyone. So tags will be available for everyone with a new design. And then those are the things that remain for August: the personalization, RSS, the featured result, and the digital collections. All those that have this small star next to them are actually functionality that can be accessed with the new UI, but it's going to open in a new tab with the classic interface. So our target is to verify that with May release, most of the feature, more than 90% of the features are actually available. All the important features are available. And then really, 4 features will remain for August. And we hope that a lot of customers can use the summer in order to go live with the new UI and work on it. But always we recommend everyone to work as soon as possible, even if they are not planning to go. And from the people that are joining to those sessions, it looks like everyone is really trying it and working on it. So this is it for the roadmap for the new UI. We will try to keep it as updated as we can, everything that is changed, and share as much information as we can. You're always welcome to ask for more explanations and demos. We are always happy to do it. And now I saw that Mehmet is joined, so I guess it would be perfect timing. So thank you. Ellen, you are muted, I think.
I just want people to know that if they have any questions about the roadmap, they can either post the questions to YouTube, or they can also post the questions to Slack. We will be reading. We'll be reading them at the end. Not only have we been joined by Mehmet, but we've also been joined by Guy Ben Porat. Guy is like, the only thing that can come to mind is basically the brains of the operation. I mean, he is absolutely one of the most phenomenal people I've worked with when it comes to kind of thinking through the operational and technical requirements that we had when we were talking about the transition from the loss of direct server access within the SaaS environment to really listening to the developers and what it is that we needed in order to actually create the customization framework. It's in large part not just because of the meeting, but because of the hard work that he's actually the brain work that he's done to kind of think through some of these processes that I just hold him in such high regard. So I just wanted to let people know kind of what his contribution was to what it is that we're all working with. With that, I will share my screen to to put up the lightning questions, and Mehmet and others can chime in and when we get to a question. Hold on. Oops, sorry about that. I'm going to hand it off to Mehmet.
Whoa. Okay. I don't know. What do you expect from me? Sorry.
The Google Slides. I'll tell you what. Why don't you talk about your extension while I get the slides up?
Okay. Good plan. Let's see. Let me try to share my screen. Okay. So I've been experimenting lately. This documents, and I tried to understand what the new Primo UI was all about, how to access it programmatically, so not CSS or any other fancy stuff. I couldn't. I couldn't actually. I don't see the difference between red or green or yellow or whatever. But just doesn't speak to me. So the idea back then was to write a document or to see what was going on. And let me quickly try to find this document. So this is a public document. I'll post the URL on Slack in the Primo Dev channel. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. Go ahead. Okay. Right. So I'm supposing that. Okay. So that's the document, and it basically contains the stuff that the extension is supposed to be doing. Contains some basic information, stuff that's been told during the hackathon, where you can find NPM packages. There are also NPM packages on GitHub, which haven't been NPM'd at the moment, where the development environment is how to access UI elements. So because I was trying to understand what the model was and how I could leverage it to create new elements. Well, let me just. Retrieve all the directives that are in Primo, active or not active, anyway, defined in Primo. How to get the scope, how to get the controller, so basic stuff, how to get your session information, very important. And then some examples, like, for example, how would you collapse your facets? There's a better way of doing it through the configuration, but this is one way of the console, just as an experiment, just as trying to understand and figure out what's going on under the hood. Like, for example, fill out a search box and so on and so on. So how to inject a custom component. So components that you find in your NPM, you can actually test them without installing them. And this is an example of how to do it. This is a Hello World example, but this is the one that takes an NPM right from the internet and injects it into, in this case, a logo after element. So where the result set is, so stuff I guess Noam showed yesterday. I haven't been able to watch the recording of yesterday. You can just dump the code from the bundle.js map back into files, and it's easier to investigate stuff. So some other stuff like how do you call, how do you use the REST API in Primo, and so on and so on. So, and also some concerns on ng forward and so on. So I would personally, I would have never used ng forward, but okay, that's a different thing. So what did I do? Let me first try to show you what I did. So if I refresh my session, and let me just remove this. So what I did was I created an extension of Primo Explorer. And it will show the directives. So basically what's in the document, it will show the directives, and it will give you the possibility to watch the first level of your properties. And you can also push these directives to your console, so you can investigate a little bit more. This is just a proof of concept, nothing too fancy. It's located on GitHub. I'll also post this stuff. You can get the directive over there. So if you download it, you can then just install it by dragging. And I'm also not sure if this was a great idea to use a Chrome extension, because Google stop promoting Google Chrome extensions. You cannot publish them to the store anymore. So maybe it's better to have a non-browser dependent environment. So if you add your the extension to your web browser, it will be down here. And then if you go to Primo and open up your console, this tab will show up. And the first thing it will say is, well, you don't have reload debug active, so let's activate that. Then it will refresh your web browser. And then what it will show is, it will show all the directives that are defined in Primo. The ones in gray are defined but not instantiated, so they're not active. and the ones with a green dot in front of is are the ones that are instantiated. So there is a Primo Explore main, and there is also the after. We can see, for example, the logo here. If you click on it, it will show the first level. So it's only experiment, so it will only show the first level for now of parameters or attributes that are in the object. And we can take another one, the icons, for example. They have 8 instances of them. And here you can browse through the different icons. And the nice thing about this is, so if we search, for example, for water, for example, there's always water in the database. You will get a result set. And for now, we have to refresh. But if we refresh, you will see your brief results. There are 10 of them. So what you can do now is, if you want to, for example, investigate what's in the item object, we can push this to the console, and it will give us a variable that we can use. And so this is the scope. So we can go to the controller, the item, display title, for example, and it will give the title of the object. So this is a tool not for debugging, but for exploration, and it's only a start. That's all what I could do in a weekend. And if it's useful or helpful for people, and if you have ideas, then I'll definitely look into it and extend it. It has a Chrome extension, so that it will also work in Firefox. I've already started doing some code, and there will be some other features like highlighting objects and so on. So, but that's still in development. So this is my very small introduction into what I'm trying to do. If people are interested and if they want to help, they're definitely welcome. If they have IDs, then the IDs are also welcome. So that's it. Alan?
Okay. Like I said, if anybody, if others have questions related to the Chrome extension, they can either post to the YouTube channel or they can post to Slack. Whether you have ideas or whether you have other types of things for Mehmet to do, that would be great. No, I'm just joking. In any event, what we've done is we've actually collected the questions that have been posted in Slack, and if we can, I would ask if people want to take particular questions, if they can just unmute their mic, and hopefully we can come up with some answers or some suggestions for people that would get them on their way. The first question is about internationalization. Basically, I'm wondering about the practice of IE8LN added via the Angular component templates. Do you have to check the active language every time, and do you have to create a lookup table in JavaScript? Anyone?
Okay, so if they use, so I'm David. So if they use labels of Primo Explore, they can just use the Angular translate directives. So we use Angular translate, and then they can just write in the directive translate is equals, and then to the label of Primo.
The language label, or I'm sorry, the label of what you're trying to translate?
Yes.
Okay. So the next question is about icons. Is there an easy way to overwrite icons, or another way of putting this question, is there a way to see all of the SVG icons that are available for use with the PRM icon directive?
Noam, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can share with them what you maybe just sent me today, how it's possible to see all the icons, right?
Well, of course, yeah. Basically, we're using the material design icon sets, most of them, not all of them. So all of these are available to use. There are, I guess, two basic ways to override icons. First one is an example Miri can send. It's actually tapping into the PRM icon directive and then just querying for the icon you want to replace, and probably creating a template with a new icon instead. But it has to be an icon from the icon sets that are available in Primo, which is pretty much many icons. So I hope you find one you like. You can override the entire template in that for that specific icon and load an image or any HTML element to replace the icon. So first method is to override the PRM icon in general, but query for specific icons you want to replace and hide the original template and display your own template. So there's an example we can share later on Slack. Another way is to access the actual service for each and every feature, because, and that's not true for all icons, but you can just go into the service and override the value of the JavaScript object holding the reference to the icon. That's a little bit, I think for now, we'll try to avoid that. If we find if we'll feel that changing icons is a very common, an icon set is a very common customization, we will probably be able to, like the concept of the colors.json file, we'll probably be able to expose another JSON file for all the icons in the system, letting you override it. But up till now, I'm not sure if maybe you want to replace some out-of-the-box icons, but we can do that for you if they're not good in general. But we'll have to see. It's possible. We'll have to see
How to improve the process.
if it's needed. Colors, we know for sure you want to customize. Icons, let's discuss. I'm not sure. But for now, you can use the example we'll post later. So
thanks.
So there is a way.
So Noam, you're going to be popular. There's another question here. They said you did a lot of poking around to find the right information within the Angular scope and REST services. Since the new UI is an API in itself, or it's reading out of APIs, will there be some kind of documentation of the internals from Xlibris, and where will it be located on the Xlibris site?
Well, I'm I'm not sure.
What does
I
it
think
mean?
the real question here, the real question I think is more about documentation about what's in the parent controller.
I think we should explore the possibility to maybe expose or build together with the community a package of services documented and allowing access to the different information, whether it's our services or copies of our services, giving both the community access and giving us freedom to change the services we use, because we don't want everything in the system to be backwards compatible and maintained over time. It really, the APIs for sure to be backwards compatible, but services, it's an effort. We should find like a hybrid solution, something in the middle, some shared services that will be documented and backwards compatible. But
so when you're talking about shared services, you're talking about locations, user info, PNX info.
Right.
Right.
And maybe the all of the Ajax calls we do to the server, it can be exposed as sort of an SDK, things like that. But we can't do this for.
Would things like loans and fines that are going out to external systems also be within those services as well?
Well, everything goes to Primo. Primo does the delegation to external systems. So we can, those services are really transparent to the ILS we're working against. Primo does the delegation. So
so it's
everything is exposed. You can see it just by looking at the developer tools. You see all the services are there. Just do control P and look for the user session manager service. You'll see it there. It's there. So in that way, everything is exposed. It's not officially exposed. So yeah.
Okay.
We can work on that step by step, I guess.
So one of Yuval's favorite topics, autocomplete. We have a user who actually wants to do their own autocomplete customization. They're wondering, hold on a second, the follow-up question actually went, can Exlibris create an autocomplete API, or can we use other sources like Bing or Google Auto Suggest?
So actually, the request here is to use the autocomplete index, right? In order to rewrite.
To use their own index.
Yeah, to use the catalog index that we have in the autocomplete, right? Just to verify I understand.
Right.
So for this, I think I will take it with Yuval about expose the API for the autocomplete. Again, it's something that is working with API today. We just need to decide about really publishing it. I don't think, I think it's possible, okay? So, but currently it's not exposable. Again, we don't have the documentation of how to use the API, but we will take it.
So a follow-up question to that would be the first question that the user posed then. As far as as far as the UI is concerned, they're completely free to create their own directives with the PRM autocomplete, correct?
They could use like PRM autocomplete, but the PRM autocomplete, like it works with tabs and scopes. And if they just would like to use an autocomplete, they could use the material autocomplete. So if they want something like Primo specific, they should use the PRM autocomplete. But if they use like an autocomplete, which is different. They could just use the out-the-box autocomplete of Angular material.
Okay. So this question has actually come up a bit. It's come up in two different channels. I tried to consolidate both questions. Is there a way to modify basic search? For example, if I created dropdowns in the after space for scope and precision, how can I get those values injected into the search query?
So what like do they mean with position, like exact or contains?
Exactly.
Okay, this is like an interesting question. I thought about an idea how to do it. I could like write also code for this. What I thought is just to use the routing of the Angular, and just the button, instead that it will trigger like internally a search, it could just use the routing, and then I'll have to send the syntax how to like trigger a state reload with the search, and then it would be also something stable which wouldn't break, because otherwise we would have to go into the service itself and change the variables, and this would be something not so recommended. So I could send a sample how to do it.
Could you just post this in Slack?
Yes, I think I could do it like at the beginning of the next week. I could do it.
Great. Changing labels on the interface. This was actually a fairly long question. The user is using a jQuery enhancement and for physical copies to make for grouped online and physical materials to say online access. The library also has physical copies. To make users more aware of print material when available in deduped records. Is there a way to do this in Angular?
Well, I guess DOM manipulation and Angular are not best friends. It is possible, but it kind of contradicts the whole idea.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why that can't be done without. Just by a directive. There is the PRM availability line after directive, which comes. It's solely. It only affects the availability line, so it comes right after it. So querying the delivery category in that specific directive and adding a text should be, I think, easy. No need for DOM manipulation. It's already there. It's just empty right now and waiting for someone to add content into it. Because as I understood, you just want to add a label, not change the actual availability. So I think it's classic for that. I think.
Okay. Anyone else want to respond? The next question. Will we have the ability to override values in code and mapping tables for the front end, or will we still need to handle some of these text changes in back office?
So yes, currently you still need to use the back office. Okay, this is today the mechanism to change the labels and other mappings. We might consider, maybe you can suggest features that you find as more suitable to be configured via the customization package. But again, I think that the idea of the customization is more to customize and not change configuration of the application itself. So currently, I think the right approach is still to use the back office for those functionalities.
Okay. Will the new Primo UI support custom web fonts?
Yes. Okay, I'm hesitating because it can be done today manually. We just discussed it before we started the session, also with the staff to understand what is the right approach. I'm not sure that today we give the best way how to do it. It requires you to load it manually and then change to upload it manually, the font, and then to change manually the CSS fonts. But we do want in the future, I don't have concrete time for it, we do want to add easier way to do it. Changing font, it's not something that we obviously recommend to do very easily, because it looks like it's just fonts, but it really affects the system, and we never QA'd it, okay? We never did tests to change the font for the entire application. So it is possible to load it, the font itself, and then to change it via CSS. We didn't have the chance to talk about it before, so Noam, if you think that I'm saying something that is wrong, you are welcome to say. Okay, or not?
I think it's okay.
Okay.
Sounds okay.
Okay.
The next question is about multiple after components. This actually comes from Ulrich. Is it possible to attach more than one controller to PRM after? I think this may be generally useful, particularly after PRM full view. It would be nice to add multiple services there, or just reuse packages which implement a special functionality. In other words, I can't simply combine my Google Books and Wikipedia demo into, you'd like to be able to have multiple features within the same.
What he could do is just to write two directives, one directive of Google Books and one directive of Wikipedia, and then just put both of them in the PRM full view after.
I think what we mean is, when you create a directive, you can create a directive in your JavaScript file with whatever name you want. You're just creating a new HTML element that you can use inside this the application. So after you created like the Google Books directive and gave it an ID of Google Books, not PRM something after, just call it Google Books, but you can only access it, you can only expose it via one of the after directives. Just put in the template the HTML tag of Google Books, followed by another HTML tag for the, I forgot the other one, HathiTrust or something like that.
Yeah.
Wikipedia. And that's the way to do it. It's not totally, I'm not sure how it will work with the whole NPM concept, but because you will have to manually create, but that's technically it's possible, and it's recommended, I think. So you can create whatever directives you want with whatever names. The limitation or the way to expose them is via the PRM whatever after directives. Just in the template.
So theoretically, you could create two directives within PRM full view after and just fire those.
Yeah.
You
can fire those from wherever you want.
Right.
You can create them somewhere and fire them out from whatever template you have for in the system.
in essence,
if you think about it, that's exactly what we're doing. Okay, so you just got a set of directives that can be that will get activated. They're just there, and you have to implement them.
Mm-hmm.
Once you implement them, you can put the directives of your choice. So, for example, when I demoed the Google Maps directive and I used an iframe, you could have used another library for Google Maps Angular library, and use a directive from there. You could have created your own Google Maps directives and used it instead of the iframe. I just kept it simple.
Sure. Okay. Okay. There's a GitHub repo for the dev environment and another for the custom template structure. I'm struggling to explain this to my web development team the best way to set up their environment for the view folders and features they develop. Can you explain in this video, or better, provide documentation on your recommended setup? I mean, in some ways, I think what this person was getting to is that there's a repository within a repository, and maybe even a third repository for the actual feature. So she was having confusion in trying to talk to her web dev team in trying to explain the way that the git ignores worked.
David, I'm not sure I have a recommendation. I think we gave like opportunities of how to implement and many directions of developing features or views. We haven't actually, I think we have to get some miles, or you should get some miles in doing that. And we can sit together and think of the best way. We mainly develop like demos, so it's not a full system. David, do you have any thoughts about this?
No, like I also think the same. We should write a sort of recipe or something, what we suggest how to do it.
Maybe I'm reading this wrong, but doesn't she actually just ask how you can get the default package from the back office?
No, she was talking. This was Laura's question about that they're going to have multiple people who are going to be working on features as well as the different views within their system, and she was wanting to know if there was a best practice or a document that she could go to talk about how multiple people could be working on the same view folder, because so much of what is done from the desktop.
Okay,
I think we can compile something.
Isn't this just normal web development?
It is, but
change something, you push it to GitHub, somebody else also changes stuff, they push it to GitHub, then they merge stuff, and
I think Mehmet, I think the confusing part is that there's a repository within a repository.
I think the package being in a repository, the package itself, it's more of a download link. It's not really that someone will actually change the structure of the package. It's in GitHub, but it could have been in any
my expectation was basically that I was going to make a copy of that view package and put it into my own repo for my organization.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I would also do
I
that.
think part of what this question is trying to get at is what are the different scenarios that she can work with to kind of work with her web team on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think it fits into any development workflow they have right now.
But that's also my answer.
So the next question relates to Ferber record. Anyone else with Primo local who uses the generic record rather than the preferred record for Ferber groups? They found on this that with this setting on the November release, they don't see any bib details at all, but they do appear if you have the preferred record set. Can we get PNX data from a Ferber record and modify the display of that div? And then a follow-up question is that a support ticket or a GitHub issue? Is it a bug?
I think it's a bug.
Sorry,
I think support is already on it.
Yeah.
But
it is support case. It's nothing to do with the customization. Okay.
Okay. I think I know who this came from. Can we get a div above top of PRM top bar to accommodate corporate branding, or should we use Flex? And then a similar thing about footers. And then a follow-up question with the footers is, will having a static footer affect scrolling behavior?
So as I just described in the beginning, we are in February. We are changing a bit the way of the navigation. So we won't have the infinite scrolling, which I think makes having footer makes adding footer easier. I think that in February you'll be able to add footer, but it will be only in the results page, and it won't be affected in the favorites, for example. But I added it to our issues to add for May, to verify that you have one footer that will go over all the application pages.
And what about top bar?
Noam, David, can they add today? They can use it, right?
Like the PRM after?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess what they're asking is, in this specific case, it makes a lot of sense to add a before directive, because there is no other way to push something before the top bar, because it's the first element. I think we can do that specifically for this for the PRM top bar. We can add a before. It should be fairly easy, right?
Yes, no problem.
Yeah, so we definitely can do that. Not a big effort.
And how would that? So would that get pushed? I guess the other question is that many of us have downloaded the template package. Would that get pushed in the February release, or is that something that could be distributed through GitHub?
No, the placeholder for all of our after and before directives, that's going to be if we want to add to that, we'll have to have it in the February release, because the placeholders are in the application itself. You can hook to them using the environment, but we have to add them in the application first.
No, I understand. I just wanted to be explicit about kind of how those types of changes were introduced. That's all.
So we'll have to do a release, and then you'll see it in Mehmet's Primo Explorer add-on. So you will be able to
Nice plug.
Unless he really hard-coded the after suffix, because then we won't see it. Because it will be before, I guess.
A question about the API roadmap for Primo. Does a public roadmap for the Primo APIs exist? There is documentation about what currently exists, but we don't have an idea of what's coming.
Yes, unfortunately it was, and it's a bit keep being postponed, externalize the APIs that we are using today for the new UI. As we mentioned in the beginning of the new UI coding, we said we are working with a lot of APIs, which most of them will be externalized afterward, but since we are still in a phase of a lot of changes, we still can't publish them. So I promise that I believe it will be more around May release. It will be feel more secure, that no major changes are going to be in the application, and then we will publish when and which APIs are going to be available.
Okay, just really quick, somebody actually posted in Slack they have concern that endless scrolling will go away, as opposed to that pagination will be an option. Can you clarify if it's going to be a configuration option or if it's going to be part of the permanent setup of the Primo Explore application?
It is not going to be configuration. It is going to be one solution. This is really a basic component. We don't want to have different approaches to support in this phase. It is not its only pagination. We will have the load more results. So you can have more and more results on the page, but it's not by automatically by scrolling, okay? So you can load more results on page, but not just by scrolling in this point.
Okay. Let's see. There are a number of external vendors, OCLC, SpringShare, Bowker, that provide scripts that can be inserting using the script directive. Will we need to get the vendors to rewrite these as directives? Some of these scripts require jQuery. I was told to forget jQuery exists. And then a follow-up question is, will it work if it's placed in an iframe?
Okay, so first of all, like the best solution would be to find like an Angular way of doing it. Like if OCLC has an Angular directive or SpringShare, so this would be the easiest solution. Then it is possible to load scripts. There's also an example with Altmetrics, I think, which was shown. We have an Angular service which is called Angular Load. And with this Angular Load service, we can load JavaScript and CSS at the runtime. And we get also a promise back when the script is loaded. So this is the first, so it's possible. I would not recommend to load jQuery because Angular works a bit different if it's with jQuery or without jQuery. So I wouldn't recommend to use jQuery. At the end, I think it will be also possible if it's placed in an iframe, but you will have to give the iframe the data which is needed, like to put it on the URL or something. From outside. So it's much nicer within not within an iframe, because then you have you can access all the data from the scope. But if it's something which you can put on an URL, so iframe will also work very nice.
Oops. Okay. This was a question that came out after Noam's presentation yesterday. Can the user info, location info, service files you showed yesterday be incorporated as part of the dev environment? So clearly there's interest in people using this. Is this something that can be added to the dev environment?
I think we should open a services project, make it a dependency for the dev environment, and make it grow in time with the support of the community. Yeah, I guess we should do that. Okay. Specifically, those services don't do that much, but.
Yeah. But I don't think it needs to be part of the dev environment, right? No, just to emphasize what you're saying.
It won't be the same. It won't be the same repository. I don't think it will be the same repository, but it can be a dependency. That the dev environment is a development environment. We don't want to mix it up with like code, which should be a separate project, but it could be a dependency.
It could also be part of the download package for the views as well.
Ellen, I will say something maybe not very politically correct.
Uh-oh.
No, I think it's good. What Noam suggested to have a separate services, but you know, Noam and David, I think, are perfect example for people that are doing things like really as an open source code, which are not part of, for example, the roadmap and the support process. Having it as part of the development environment and part of the downloaded data, I think will make it more formal. And I don't think that this is something that both sides want to do. I think it's good to say, you know, we have some more flexibility in a separate services or something like this.
Yeah, that's why I use my other persona in GitHub and not my Ex Libris account. I use my Gmail. I'm gonna agree with Miri, I think.
Yeah.
I have to, but I also really agree with her.
I think it's an interesting, if not sensitive topic, no question about that. At the same time, I think it's a struggle for, you know, I don't know how to say this well. I think many people, particularly on our side, think the more exposure or the easier that some of this can be, the better. But it's also understood that that turns into a much more formal support issue. Yeah. So I can certainly understand the tension being in support myself.
Let's think of how to make it easy, but still not part. I don't want it to be part of the releases and because you know, at the end of the day, it will harm how quick we can respond and work with this. So let's think how we can make it as easy as we can, but I really don't think it needs to be part of the development environment.
Fair enough. So the next question is really more questions for the community as much as anyone. Whoops, I'm gonna change the font here in a second.
Hello. Okay, we like it this way as well.
Hold on just a second. Have a guy going into a phone closet. What features are you thinking about development? Does it make sense to team up, and this is really not a question for Ex Libris so much as it's a question to the community. These were some features that have been mentioned either at Igloo. SFX is my pet thing, as well as the relay D2D. Lucas Koster has spoken a couple of times about an EAD display tool and what that might look like. Topics have come up about making available linked data, authors, and titles, and Alma features. I would be very interested if people would be so inclined to actually propose functional areas that they would want to develop or work in for the in terms of features that they would like to roll up, and to post those ideas in Slack, not just because I think it's important to kind of work collaboratively, but I also think it's important that Ex Libris see what it is that people are thinking about and what types of customizations actually need to be done in order for people to go fully live, because many of these things are somewhat niche, but incredibly important to individual institutions for going live. So I'd like to begin to, or at least solicit requests for a features list of things that people could tag with a hashtag feature within the Primo dev channel, so that we could possibly put together coding teams, or at least give Ex Libris a bit of an idea of what types of functionality that we're working on. And finally, I just wanted to make one last pitch for the usability script library. I want to solicit this particularly to Miri. We've talked a little bit about having kind of a centralized usability script library. Does it make sense to have one? I've heard from people, from many people, yes, to have kind of a common store of things that they could adapt. Many questions around how often it would be updated, or if it would be updated with specific components that are related to the service pack. But I'd also be interested in hearing what people's UX testing process is before they actually release the new UI into the wild. Those are things that at least topics that I would like to see discussed within Slack, if people would be so willing to contribute. The other piece that's really important is, if you already have scripts, please upload them and share them within the Slack environment. So I want to thank everybody for participating. We have one more day. And then we'll be tomorrow we'll be talking a little bit about two-way data binding, and we'll be concluding with some remarks. So otherwise, if there are any follow-up questions in Slack, feel free to post them, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thanks everyone.